The Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver decision making is really starting to backfire. This has been a topic of conversation now for almost 2 years. And it's not like the Steelers don't have talent in the wide receiver room. DK Metcalf is an absolute beast. Calvin Austin has stepped up at points. Roman Wilson stepped up last week, and there's no reason to believe that he won't continue to do so if given the opportunity. Ben Skoranek has made some plays, mainly in special teams, but he's also made some plays on the offensive side of the ball. So it's not like they're bereft of talent at that position, not to mention that they have some talented guys at the tight end position and some running backs that can also make some noise in the receiving game as well. But the problem is, it's not just the fan base that's been clamoring for the Steelers to go out and get a wide receiver too. It's not just the media that's creating a narrative. It's the actions of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have called and been linked to almost every single wide receiver too, not just this week leading up to the trade deadline, but dating back to the Diontae Johnson trade. Since that went down in March of 2024, they have been in or a name mentioned in every single wide receiver conversation when it comes to player movement. And the latest example happened this week. They brought in Marquez Valdes-Scantling, MVS, on Monday for a workout. It comes out from Jeremy Fowler of ESPN that the Steelers plan to sign him. And their plan to sign him is also a plan to start him on the practice squad with the eventual idea of moving him to the 53-man roster. And yet, here we sit on Halloween Day at about 10 a.m. when I'm recording this, and MVS has yet to sign anything. And I sit here and I say, do you blame him? Do you really blame MVS for not choosing Pittsburgh and not seeing what else is out there? Because essentially what he's doing at this point is looking to extend his career another year and, if possible, show enough in the remainder of this year that he extends it for a 2-year contract. That would be best case scenario for MVS. So he needs a good showing with whatever team he chooses to sign with. He signed with San Francisco, 4 receptions, 40 yards, not enough doing. He gets cut from there, and now he's looking for a new home. He's looking for a place to prove that he deserves to be in the league going forward, to extend his career. Will he get that opportunity to have a good showing here? It's hard to believe. And then you take it a little bit broader and you look at free agent wide receivers as a whole. Do they want to come to the city of Pittsburgh? Is there opportunity to come to Pittsburgh, especially for these veterans that are looking for an opportunity to prove that they still got it? Are they going to get enough in the Steelers offense to warrant them choosing here over anywhere else? And I think the biggest kind of category that they're looking at, and a lot of people can look at, is the target share. You look at the Steelers offense in 2025, 22% of the targets have gone to DK Metcalf. Makes sense. He's your number 1 wide receiver. But where's your number 2 wide receiver? Not second in target share. That's Jonnu Smith at 15%. Not third in target share. That's a running back, Kenneth Gainwell, at 13%. And then, and only then, do you get to the second wide receiver, which is Calvin Austin at 12% of the target share. 12% of the targets are going to your number 2 wide receiver, somebody that, unless you are an established wide receiver, you're not going to come in and immediately get more targets than. And then even after that, if you want to go even further, after Calvin Austin, it's 2 more tight ends and Jaylen Warren before you get to the third wide receiver when it comes to target percentage. There's not a whole lot of opportunity to go around in the Steelers offense when it comes to wide receivers. So it's not just MVS. The question that a lot of us had is, why wouldn't they go out and sign Tyler Lockett when he was available? He's somebody who is a veteran wide receiver, has proven to be very effective in the quick game because that's kind of how he built his career up in Seattle. He's somebody who has a prior history being a number 2 to DK Metcalf, so those two can work really well in the pass game. Why wouldn't they go and try to get Tyler Lockett? Well, the bigger question is, why would Tyler Lockett come here? if he's going to get 12% of the target share versus going somewhere else and maybe getting more of an opportunity in an offense that doesn't have so many focal points being the tight end and the running backs in the passing game. So it's become a chicken and egg situation in my eyes. Is the lack of wide receiver usage due to the lack of talented wide receivers over the past year and a half? Or is the offensive scheme causing the lack of that wide receiver talent because nobody wants to come to Pittsburgh because the scheme doesn't give enough opportunities? I think if you look at the first part of that is the lack of usage due to the lack of receivers. You look at what they've had since Diontae Johnson left a season and a half ago. Van Jefferson came in, got an opportunity, and he did well enough to extend his career, but with the Tennessee Titans, a team that finished dead last in the NFL last year. You look at Mike Williams, who came over at the trade deadline around this time last season. He didn't do anything with the Steelers, and now he's not on an NFL roster. You don't think that current wide receiver free agents, guys like MVS, guys like Tyler Lockett, don't look at that and say, man, I'm looking to extend my career. And two of the veteran guys that went to Pittsburgh last year, one is on the Tennessee Titans and having himself a season that you could expect with the Tennessee Titans, and the other's not even in the league. If I want to extend my career, maybe that's not the best place to go. Arthur Smith has a tight end heavy offense, and maybe that's part of it too. But at this point, it's been so long, that it's hard to remember, is it because there's not a lot of talent at wide receiver, a lot of depth at wide receiver, or is it just because that's the scheme? Either way, it's going to be very hard for the Steelers to get free agent wide receivers to come to Pittsburgh for the time being. Yeah, that can change. Yes, everything can be different if Roman Wilson or Calvin Austin steps up, becomes number two wide receiver. And now all of a sudden, Pittsburgh's a place where wide receivers go, man, if I can get that number 2 slot, if I can wrestle it away from Calvin Austin, if I can wrestle it away from Roman Wilson, I'll be set up pretty well. Unless that happens, it's going to be really hard to believe that wide receivers are going to willingly choose Pittsburgh, especially if I could speak today, it'd be great. Especially free agent veterans like an MVS, especially when you look at them and say, hey, we're going to start you on the practice squad so you can get up to speed, and then you can work your way up the ladder. You can work your way into the lineup. You can work your way higher in the target share. The highest in the target share that a number 2 receiver's gotten is 4th. And that's with guys that have been here since the beginning of training camp. Mike Tomlin is notorious for saying, hey, it's hard to jump on a moving train, and putting the reins on players that come in late in the action. So it's going to be an interesting week, because while it does take away free agents potentially, while their handling of the wide receiver room has backfired and has made them a less desirable place for wide receivers to choose in free agency, there are ways you can bring wide receivers in where it's not technically their choice. The NFL draft, that's not going to help them this year. And of course, the trade deadline. That's going to be the big thing for the Steelers. That's how they got DK Metcalf to Pittsburgh, and that is how they're going to get their wide receiver 2 this season. It's the only option they have left, because I don't think they're going to sign a free agent at this point in time. So whether it's Jacoby Myers, whether it's Jalen Waddle, whether it's any of the other wide receiver 2s, Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, whoever you bring in, you need to have a plan to make sure that they are under contract, because if not, they'll become a free agent. And once again, free agents don't have much incentive to sign with this team at this current time. So a year and a half ago, they made the decision to trade Diontae Johnson. Since then, Omar Khan's been fighting off his back foot, and he just has not been able to coax a wide receiver to Pittsburgh outside of those that he can acquire via a trade. DK Metcalf is the exception and not the rule. These other veterans are becoming less and less likely to come to the Steelers. So we'll see what happens. It should be an interesting couple days leading up to the trade deadline. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this one. Remember, you can find all this stuff on YouTube at Nick Belsky. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, all of that fun stuff. And we'll see you guys next time.